Thanks for joining today. Welcome. This is going to be a conversation with Ginny Marvin, where we're going to talk about AI Max and the future of search. I think we had nearly 800 people signing up for this, so thank you so much for the interest. Thank you so much for taking time out of your days to hear us. And yeah, very big thanks to Ginny for taking the time. So also, I know it's in the morning for you, Ginny. I'm going to be putting you in the hot seat a little bit, so thank you for doing that.
No, really happy to be here, and thanks for having me, Mike.
Absolutely. Just by way of introduction, my name is Mike Ryan. I'm head of e-commerce insights at Smarter E-commerce. And so, I'm actually, as you can maybe tell from that job title, I'm focused on e-commerce. I'm not going to be asking a lot of stuff about lead gen today. That's out of my wheelhouse. And I'm not an account manager. I'm an analyst. I work on understanding Google at a technological level and stuff like that. So I'm really curious to have Ginny school me on some stuff here. I've just noticed that there's a lot of questions and sometimes uncertainty about this new product. And Ginny, may I introduce you, or would you like to
Sure.
introduce yourself? All right. Uh,
You can give it a shot, and I'll correct any mistakes you make.
all right, I'll give it a shot. Here, this is my version. Okay, so Ginny is the product liaison for Google Ads, and so it's her job to interface between the public and advertisers, Google's customers, and the product team at Google. And it's also a role in the PR team as well, as I understand it. So you're partly a spokesperson for Google Ads. Um, and I also have to say, Ginny has been a huge ally to advertisers over the years. I think I personally noticed an inflection in the advertiser product relationship once Ginny came on board. So we really appreciate having you.
Great. Thanks. No corrections.
Okay, good. I just a question for you, Ginny, because so you're a key spokesperson for the advertising products at Google, and that's responsible for, I don't know, ballpark 80% of the company's revenues, and this company is worth like $4 trillion at this point. So, like scale of 1 to 10, how much pressure is that?
So I think of I guess I'll say I really think of my role as trying to be because my background is I've been in digital advertising for many years, and then was a journalist covering this space for a long time. And so I think of my role as trying to be that um, the bridge between the advertiser community and our product teams to help advertisers better understand how our products work, our policies work, and then bringing that feedback in. The pressure is we have really with a lot of advertisers with a lot of varied needs and business goals, and a lot of products and features and new things coming up. So
Mm,
my main sense of responsibility is one, being accurate and sharing information as best as I understand it, and clearly and articulately in a way that advertisers of all all verticals and experience levels can understand.
well, I think you do an excellent job at that, and yeah, we're gonna put you through
Yeah, we'll
through the
see.
hoops today. Yeah. But I don't know. I think you're always cool as a cucumber. I'm always impressed how composed you are and how articulate. So, but yeah, let's get into it. So AI Max is yeah, more or less Google's newest advertising product. Tell us about like the definition of AI Max and the vision of that. So in other words, kind of what is the role of this technology in an advertiser account now, and where do you see that headed as well?
Yeah, I think it was designed really to be an easy way to enable AI-powered features in your search campaigns, whether that's existing search campaigns or new campaigns that you are launching. And the goal ultimately is to help capture incremental conversions, conversion value, by expanding the base of relevant searches that you can reach, and also matching with by engaging more with users with more relevant ads and
Mhm.
landing pages. So it's really this suite of features to help you expand reach with more relevant ads and landing pages to improve that user
Mhm.
experience. And it really is intentionally designed to be optional. So rather than a new campaign type or a migration, and it's really aimed at helping set up search campaigns for both future experiences and as well, and be ready for today. I was thinking about this a lot the other day. Things are changing so fast,
Yeah.
and we talk about being in the moment and being what's happening now. And I almost think of it as like what's happening now is the near future. Like, so
Mm.
what you what you're doing now, because things are changing so quickly, you're essentially want to think about it as taking advantage of what and setting yourself up for success in the near term is what you're doing today. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Whereas much more, I feel like, I mean, things have always been changing fast in search, obviously, but this is a new level of pace,
Mhm.
and you could kind of have a structure or have a game plan that would take you through the year.
Mhm.
I would think much more dynamically as you are managing campaigns today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it feels like things are at this kind of parabolic or exponential rate of change at this point, and so I understand that. And hold on, I just want to, by the way, chime in and say to the audience that if you have any questions, we're going to try to find some time at the end for question and answer, so you can already start putting those in now or whenever you have them. Um, like that was interesting to me, Ginny. You mentioned that AI Max is framed around making these AI features or AI technologies available. I think what a lot of people have read out of this or heard out of this, like they're thinking about these new AI surfaces, and like a question or a misconception I get all the time is people asking, is AI Max the only way for ads to appear in AI mode and stuff like that? Um,
Yeah.
so I think there's a degree where people are kind of hearing what they want to hear with the AI in there, or projecting what they're thinking about. But I mean, it is indeed also designed to be future proof for these new experiences, as you were mentioning. Like, I'm just wondering where are we on that today? Do you have data about, because I hear that search terms are getting longer as they get more prompt like, or as people do these super detailed AI queries. Do you know anything about that or how that's developing?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, so just kind of to level set on where we are. So ads, text and shopping ads can show in AI overviews
Yeah.
via Broad Match, AI Max, and PMax. And AI Max's suite is essentially PMax search, right?
Hmm.
So I often hear a lot of things of like, well, these aren't any new features, it's just a repackaging. Yes, and it is. There are some nuances though that we can talk about, but yes, it's essentially bringing that the AI powered tools of PMax for search into search and making it easy to implement in your search campaigns.
Hmm.
In terms of what we're seeing from a consumer behavior evolution, we're seeing absolutely longer queries, more complex queries. Um, some of the stats. Let me just take a quick look. I think I have some of these here. So 70% of keywords are now estimated to be long tail and conversational. We've
Hmm.
seen an 800% increase in conversation queries that include more than 8 keywords. And then the other big piece of this is visual and even audio search with Lens. So Lens searches grew 65% year over year, more than 100 billion visual searches.
Wow.
And then AI mode is also rapidly advancing, and that is where ads are being tested in AI mode at this point.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah, all that to say is queries are getting longer, more complex, more conversational, and not necessarily text-based.
mhm. Yes. Okay. Multimodal and all
Yeah,
this stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
That's super fascinating. And I know, like, one thing I want to follow up on here, because you talked several months ago about synthetic keywords, which is kind of as I understand it, it's a way of distilling these long conversations or extremely long queries into something that could be somehow targetable, or that captures the essence of it, if I'm understanding it right. And that's supposed to be a technology coming to AI Max. But I haven't heard anything about it since. I saw a couple of examples in the wild, but meanwhile, like, the documentation has been taken offline. Could you tell us about that technology, and is it something we can expect more of this year?
yeah. I think the team is really thinking deeply about how to on reporting from a reporting standpoint to be able to give more insight into when and how your ads are showing up in
Mm,
search, and to give more meaningful insight. So we know that that's a thing. It's being kind of re-looked at in terms of how that happens. So I would definitely, like, that's something on the horizon in the near term. It is a priority. I also will plug we have an ads decoded episode next week. We'll talk a little bit more about this topic and sort of search campaign structure as a whole, that gets into this a little bit. So I think yeah, more to come, certainly a priority.
okay, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's one concern of mine is that people are already, I'm sure, as you know, complaining or dissatisfied about the high amount of hidden search terms. And this is primarily due to these privacy thresholds. And when I hear that everything's going long tail at this point, then the concern is that then all this data will just disappear due to privacy thresholds. But
Yeah, I think yeah, and the team is absolutely, I cannot stress enough how truly aware the team is about the those concerns. I also can't say enough that like it is a privacy. I know there's a lot of theories about why other search terms happen. It's a global threshold.
yeah,
But yes, I think certainly as we see longer, more complex queries, the role of a keyword is evolving from, that hard target to another intent signal. And so
yeah,
how do we help advertisers understand the impact of their targeting as a whole on how they're showing up in search?
yeah. No, that makes sense. And by the way, I want to also shout out your podcast. I meant to do that when I introduced you, because that's great. Ginny last year did a kind of a limited run of episodes on YouTube called Ads Decoded, and she talks with people from the product team, and they really get into the level of detail that you would want from these conversations. And now it's going to be an ongoing podcast, so I'm super excited about that too as a listener.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. And it's really thanks to the community for tuning in and showing support. So really appreciate that.
Well,
And
definitely. I hope people will go and check that out after this. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, you were just talking about how you're working on reporting. That's a priority, something you want to get right. I want to say that I think the reporting is already way better for AI Max, and I appreciate that a lot. When PMax was released, it was criticized as, not to reopen old wounds or something, but it was criticized as being like kind of half-baked, a black box, etc. I think PMax has also really turned that story around, but AI Max
Mhm.
feels like it's been more transparent from the start. Is there anything you want to like say about that, or like
Yeah, I
about
think
the?
yeah, and you're right. I mean, PMax ultimately the initial vision on PMax was let the system do the work, and as more inputs can disrupt the system. I think there's been so much work done with advertisers and listening to advertisers, really understanding the business needs for more reporting, some more controls, which you've definitely seen from both sides, both insights and controls being introduced into PMax. And then that really did translate pretty directly into how AI Max was built. I can't actually think of another type of new launch like AI Max, where it's not a migration, it's not a new campaign type. It really is the optionality is built in, reporting's built in, additional controls are built in from the start. And not to say that things will continue to evolve, they certainly will, but I feel from a starting point, it was really a pretty fresh take for Google, and that is really truly thanks to feedback from customers and the teams listening. So
Yes. Well,
yeah.
yeah, thank you to the teams for listening and acting on that, because that's not to be taken for granted. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I agree that it is. I thought the strategy was genius from once I first saw the launch, and I think the reception was very favorable initially. I think it's had its ups and downs. What I'm seeing right now is like I was looking at a sample of about 750 accounts with search campaigns, and of those, like in June of last year, 1% or less than 1% had AI Max. Of course, it was in a very beta state at that point. It was still a launch state, but now starting in November, it was already, so less than 6 months later, it was already at 12% of the accounts had AI Max activated, and that's a little flat right now. But I think people are not making a lot of big changes in their technology mix around December and January. They're still getting started up, but I think we'll see where the trajectory takes us the rest of this year.
Yeah, and that lines up with what we're seeing as well in terms of adoption. And I think the other thing is, experimentation is built in. So yeah, I think it's been well received, and certainly I expect there to be ups and downs, and also as people use it more, pushing that envelope and raising more questions. I think that's also just a natural flow of how these things develop, and again, just keep that feedback coming back in.
Sure, and I will. One
Yeah,
of the things that I've done since there is this transparency
I have
built
no
in.
doubt. Yes.
Sorry, I'm probably a big pain in the butt, but
No, no, no. Really, I honestly, and I do mean this authentically, that and constructive feedback, but there's when you can share specific examples, when you can, Mike, you look at an aggregated level a lot, and then, and Brad Geddes says this as well on with stuff that he does, and
yeah.
Fred. And so being able to then go and say, hey, can you share some specifics so the team can drill in, try to understand what's happening here, and we can either explain it, or maybe there's something that needs to be tweaked on our ends, and learnings from our side. So really
Sure, and I
appreciate
think
that.
we'll get into a couple of those things in a bit, but before we get there, yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about through a couple of features. Like search term matching is the one I think that it interests me the most. So if we can talk about that a little bit. There are, as I understand, there are two kind of arms to that. It's this expansion technology to try to, as you said, capture incremental conversions, and to do that, you have to capture incremental search terms or queries. So one of these arms is basically the broad match arm, and the other of the arms is a keywordless arm, if I've got it right.
Yep.
And Google says, like even in their kind of case studies and the marketing around this, that advertisers who have a heavy exact match mix right now will see a bigger uplift because the broad match has more work to do. If you're already using broad match, then there's less work for the technology to do. But I feel like there's a little dilemma here because the people who at this point are still using high shares of exact match, they're kind of the late adopters of broad match. Like, what do you say to them, or what's the case to be made for people who have been hesitant to adopt broad match now? Why should they adopt AI Max?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think, and there are a few things, and it's also going to depend on where you are, what your goals are, what your budget is. But I think what I see a lot of the hesitancy in using broad match is still thinking of it as the broad match of yesteryear,
Yeah.
which it has just come so far and continues. I think that's the other thing that often gets overlooked. And I'm trying to do talking more about the kind of iterative back end updates that are ongoing with these models. And so there's constant evolution with these models. So if you use broad match last year, you may
Mm.
have a completely different experience with it this year. Once a few things I would absolutely note though is you want to be using smart bidding. It's
Yeah.
designed to be used with smart bidding. It's also designed to be used with responsive search ads. I think that's also where you can see with the pairing of search term matching and text customization really being that great relationship of being able to match the query
Mm.
to your ad copy and to the landing page. So that's another thing I would keep in mind is like, what is the universe of relevance that you're able to deliver now with these tools? And then the other thing is I would really go back to looking at your ad group structure. So if you're seeing a lot of irrelevant matches or unexpected matches, a couple of things is one, I would take a kind of a broader look at what relevance means today, meaning that you may be seeing search terms that are higher up in the customer journey than you would normally expect to see. That I think is also part of this expansion is, and again, being able to serve ad copy that is relevant to people throughout the customer journey. So I would think more broadly about that. And then the other thing is when you're looking at your ad groups, making sure that your ad groups are well themed. And
Mm.
because Google learns about what the meaning of your keywords is by the other keywords in the ad group.
Mhm.
So think intentionally about that theming structure. And then, of course, you want to have that through line to the assets that you do provide and the landing pages that you do provide to help guide that system as well.
Yeah, well, definitely. And there, by the way, there's a report so that you can see search term, headline, landing page. This is a super helpful report that's available for AI
Yeah.
Max as well. And yeah, I mean, it's preempting some like I'm just wondering because search term matching an interesting setting, or rather, yeah, control here is that um, you can set this at the ad group level. You have to activate it at the campaign level, but then you can turn it off, on or off at the ad group level. And is that the
Yes.
idea so that you have that level of control depending on some themes you might want this, some you might not?
Yeah, and it also gives you yes, there may be times when you don't want it everywhere, or you may want to say, look, I'm willing to try this. Let's try this in a few ad groups
Okay.
and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also that sort of makes that onboarding process a little more digestible, but
Mhm.
also, yes, it gives you that granularity if you need it.
All right. Um, let's see here. I something okay, something I noticed. Nah, I don't know. Perhaps let's just skip with that one because we got to keep the time in mind here too. I want to talk now about the keywordless arm. Okay. And my understanding of the the keywordless arm is that even if you would have every keyword in your account or in your campaign or however set to broad match, um, this is stuff that you would have missed. I mean, is that a
Mhm.
correct understanding? Because it feels to me like that's the most incremental then.
Yes, I think that's a way to think about it. And then the other thing I'd say is yes, it's the keyword list when people are not typing in specific queries. Then you can show up. So think of things like Lens
Okay.
and
Mhm.
other multimodal um, methods of querying. So yes, again, though, it's going to depend on where you're coming from. If you're a mostly broad user, broad match user,
Hmm.
then that's where you're going to see more of the lift is on the keywordless side. If you're more heavy on the exact and phrase, you'll probably see more of a balance on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I was pleased. I looked again at this sample of accounts, and I was somehow uh, expecting that the keywordless amount of impressions might be relatively low. Because again, speaking of the reporting, there's a cool view. It's the search term match source, and it will tell you if this was done through the broad match part of AI Max or through the keywordless part. And I found that there, uh, yeah, there's kind of a bimodal distribution, and it's related to what you're talking about, where some people are already using a lot of broad match, so the keyword is a very high share of the AMX impressions. But in general, if we look at everyone else, it was about like a 50-50 split between broad match expansion and keywordless expansion. So it seemed like both arms are really meaningful and both contributing. And I was happy to see that because I was a bit skeptical of what I would find.
Yeah, and the other piece of that is if you're a heavy user of dynamic search ads already, then again, you're going to see less impact from keywordless. If you're
Mm,
not using dynamic search ads, this is essentially um, opting you into that as well. The other thing I'll note on it's not exactly the same as dynamic search ads. So dynamic search ads will look at the content of your landing page for targeting, and keywordless in AI Max will look at both the landing page content as well as the content in your ad group, and that includes your assets and your keywords. So it has a broader universe of relevancy to understand what to target.
okay, well that's great because I was just about to turn us toward dynamic search and ask you about how keywordless differs, and I think you've clarified that a bit. But like, I mean, my next question, I feel like it's the elephant in the room, and I've maybe been a little, I've been saying that dynamic search is on thin ice since PMax launched, because I felt like there was some redundancy between PMax, parts of PMax and dynamic search. Is dynamic search dead? Because dynamic search has been a beloved product. Actually, it's really earned a place in e-commerce, at least. It's earned a place in accounts. It's getting a decent percentage of spend running through there. It's kind of well understood. There's a familiarity there. And I think there's a hesitance like, well, I'm already running broad match and dynamic search. Why would I go to AI Max? I see that you've said there's some ways where AI Max is superior to dynamic search, but I think my best argument is like, this is clearly the future and you should future-proof your account now. But what is,
Yeah. I
what
mean,
are we?
yeah. So you can definitely still use DSAs for now.
Mm,
But yes, I think you can expect to see DSAs get replaced and with AI Max solutions. And again, to what I was speaking about with it's essentially already DSA Plus is what you'd be enabling in your account with AI Max. So for now, if you want to keep using your DSAs, absolutely keep doing that. But I think, to Mike, to your point, in terms of like thinking, again, in that near term down the
mm.
road, it's not going to be long term, I would say. I don't know what the timing actually will be, but I would think, start thinking ahead in terms of what that could look like. And you can, again, start testing what the AI Max solution can offer.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think that's what some people need to hear to take that next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you know, so hold on. I want to share a number with you, Ginny, because I see some overlap also with what PMax is doing, and sometimes it feels like these technologies are um, providing a lot of paths to the same entries with very similar technology, and it's hard for me to understand like if that's good or not. I mean, maybe you've given us some clarity with DSA, but when I look at our sample of advertisers with AI Max activated, um, so 17% are also using DSA. 28% are using AI Max and PMax, and 48%, so basically half of them, are using all three technologies. And this gives me like heartburn or something. I don't know, blood pressure. I feel something in my chest when I hear this because it feels to me like it's not good account hygiene. I can't imagine that this is good. Like that a search term could one day be serving with DSA and then tomorrow with AI Max and then on the next day with PMax. This is how it feels. Like, what is Google's view on this situation?
Yeah, I think taking a broader view, the vision is to give advertisers the easiest access to the future, which is AI powered tools, wherever they may be. And a lot of customers, yes, they are using PMax and they're using search and they're using demand gen, which we haven't talked about, but that's another piece of this. And I think, so, and again, that they're, the PMax for search technology is what AI Max is, plus some additional controls in that AI Max offers. So I think it's a kind of trying to meet advertisers where they are, make it less rigid of I want to do this, so I have to use this, right? So some advertisers are going to only be in PMax. Some are going to be using all three. Some are only going to be search with a bit of PMax. I think how I would look at it is, what are your business goals? Like fundamentally, like what are your business goals and what are the best avenues for me to make sure that I'm achieving those goals? And I think, if you have very strict budgets for certain product lines, that's going to dictate a different way of managing campaigns or an account than if you say, this is my goal. I don't care if where it's coming from. I don't care where this conversion is going to come from. What I want is to hit my target. And it may be that PMax in the moment is able to serve the most relevant ad at the time for this user. And so I'm happy for PMax to get that. And then maybe, oh, AI Max is where I can serve a much more relevant ad, or I need to have these granular controls. And so that's where I'm going to focus. So I realize that's not like a clean and easy answer. But I think that from my perspective, and this is my own opinion, is kind of thinking less rigidly about the overlapping and specific tooling and thinking more about these are my goals, how am I going to accomplish that? And
Mhm.
there's multiple dynamics for doing that.
I don't know.
Still have heartburn.
Yeah, I need my Tums. I'm
Yeah.
reaching for my Tums.
Yeah.
No,
No. So I guess
I,
um yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean, listen, I feel like it's tying a knot and the knot needs to be cut. That's what I feel like. And if we have this kind of signal that DSA DSA's days could be numbered, I think the first thing is to start managing the transition away from DSA. And then, yeah, the question is, if you've got PMax and AI Max, which is called PMax Search, next to each other, um, I think, AI Max does have this level of customization. There's a certain level of customization in PMax as well, and I would just look that they are not stepping on each other's toes too much because I know Google's stance here is that it's complementary to run them in parallel to each other, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around, to be honest.
I think also it depends, like you're not necessarily running everything in PMax and everything in search.
Yeah.
Um, so you can, right? And you can and do that just to make sure that you've got the main idea of PMax is to be give you that full universe of inventory,
Yeah.
right? And then, so you thinking of it from a broad universe plus search and how you, the dynamics haven't necessarily changed that much in terms of how you're thinking about PMax and AI Max. I think if you're still running search and you're running PMax, you can just start testing AI Max and
Mm.
see what happens.
Yes. I mean, that's fair enough. Always test and see.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like AI Max excuse me, PMax is fully keywordless. There's the search themes that you can add, but this is to me the great asset of AI Max is that it's still grounded in your keywords, and that's a big difference. But um,
Yes. Yes. And so, yeah. And so search themes, if you want more search reach from PMax, then add those search themes. Again, those are expansionary.
yeah,
Um, and then I would just go back to the conversation we were having about keywords, and that I would highly encourage people to start really rethinking. We've been talking for so long about the evolution of keywords and what they mean, but what we're seeing on the consumer behavior side, you're just not going to be able to reach the reach people in the same way that you used to. With people would type in two to three keyword phrase, you could reach them with your two to three keywords. That is rapidly changing. And so
mhm,
again, I would go back to really thinking about keywords as one of your intent signals.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I like that as an intent signal because yes, these what you were talking about, these numbers were mind-boggling about how the search queries are behaving, all that search behavior is evolving. Um,
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think, I remember this with mobile. It was really hard talking, sitting with clients, sitting with executives, talking about the need to be pushing into mobile. And the objection was always, well, people aren't converting on mobile yet. And
yeah,
meanwhile, they would be sitting on their phones, working, scrolling, whatever, and we're not recognizing how their own behavior was changing and what that probably meant for how their consumer behavior was changing. So I would, oftentimes we're almost laggards as marketers. We can sometimes be laggards, certainly behind where consumers are. So I also just say to start being more like think more intentionally about your own behavior and watching people who or if you're watching people in coffee shops and around and seeing their behavior without spying on their computers, obviously, but in conversations with people and understanding, getting a better view of how consumer behavior is really changing with the new
yeah.
technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I know, yeah, my search queries are getting longer too. It actually, I know because it annoys me because I hate typing on my phone. But
I know I'm
um
using voice search a lot
yeah,
more
no,
these days.
yeah, I switched. I am actually, I think this is everyone was talking about voice forever, and it's really kind of happening now because I'm too lazy to type all that stuff. So I just use my microphone. But let's just get in a couple more things, and then maybe we'll field some audience questions too. Just a reminder to people, you can still use that chat function and send us questions. We'll see if we can get through some. But I want to call out just quickly a couple of things that I found. So um, I have seen, and I've heard from a lot of people as well, that AI Max is sometimes bidding on competitor terms when that was not a desired outcome. Do you know why that happens and if there's something that we can do about it?
So I would say it's not unique to AI Max, right? The
Mm,
bidding on competitor terms. I think oftentimes what we see, so taking a step back, the reason why your ads are going to match to queries is because the system thinks there's a probability of performance, right?
yeah,
Whatever your goal is, that's conversion value. And often see people who are still in that discovery mode. So yeah, they may type in a brand name, but aren't necessarily settled on a brand. So I think in terms of like what can you do, it's still the same things of in negative keywords. Uh, Again, looking at maybe using brand settings as
There's
well.
brand inclusions and brand exclusions in AI
Yep,
Max.
yep. Um, and and then the yeah, I said negatives.
Mm.
And the other thing is, so sometimes we see this happening where people have intentional competitor campaigns set up.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so the frustration isn't necessarily that they're showing on those keywords, they just don't want them showing that campaign.
Mm.
And oftentimes when we see that happening, it's because the keywords in the competitor campaign aren't eligible, meaning like it's run out of budget for the day. So that's another piece of this. I know that's not always the case of what we're talking about, but that
Mm.
is sometimes the case. So just um, looking at eligibility and making sure that budget is able to serve through the day.
Yeah. I mean, I saw, and I can send you the customer details later on as well if it's helpful. But I'd seen one case where um, AI Max was activated and it started generating a bunch of new impressions and a bunch of new conversions, and it looked really great. But they were like the large majority of them were on competitor terms, and I mean I think that there were probably some exact match or phrase match branded keywords out there, and this was maybe that would have been a case where these ad group level controls or something could have been beneficial, or using negatives, etc. But it seemed like there was, this competitor brand was a bit more dominant for them. There's plenty of search volume for it. The intent is definitely there, and so AMX went for it. But
Yeah, and if you decide that the conversions that are coming through those terms are ones you don't want, then that's where I'd say add negatives and or use your brand settings.
yeah.
Hmm.
One more thing, I don't know if you have an answer for this, but similarly, I've seen some cases where AI Max starts going pretty hard on search partner network. And, that's not always the case, because I looked at this and it's usually for AI Max between like 3% and 8% of impressions are on search partner network. And that's, I think, pretty similar to other campaign types. And it seems appropriate. But I've seen some where it's really like 45% or even 60 something percent. And I'm just wondering if Google is aware of this.
Yeah, I know, and I think you had brought this up to us last year. Was it last year, I believe? Anyway, I know that we looked into this. It that if you're seeing massive amounts of traffic, then certainly bring that to us. What Search Partner Network is designed to do is um, go for incremental conversion value when you have extra budget outside of search.
Mhm.
So if you're seeing big spikes, then that's something we can look at. But AI Max it's not designed to go after um, uh, search partner network traffic any harder than if you're not using AI Max.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely send you some details as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it was a little ugly in this case. I mean, it didn't generate, like, in the end, it was generating a lot more impressions than clicks. But still, like, the CPA on that was a disaster in the end. But
And then
um
the other thing I just note is that the if you are concerned about what the click quality was, like making sure you look in your billing to see if there were credits there. So
mm, yeah,
that may be
yeah, good.
something to look at. But yes, definitely send us those examples. We'll take a look.
Sure. Um, let's see. I think yeah, maybe time for just one more quick one. Or I mean, yeah, let's see. Let's get over to the audience questions soon. But first, before we head over to them, just any other final thoughts or final words about AI Max that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think so I do kind of want to just touch quickly on some of the other controls that we've mentioned. So brand inclusions are available at brand settings are available at the campaign level. Brand inclusions are available at the ad group level. And just again, remember that brands are not quite keywords, they're different. So you have your brand lists and you can apply those. URL inclusions, exclusions can be set at the campaign level, but URL inclusions can be set at the ad group level for more control there. And then the other one that's really interesting, I think, and often misunderstood is the location of interest that you can set at the ad group level as well. So important to note, it doesn't change what your targeting is at the campaign level. But say, for example, you have a boutique, you have a chain of boutiques in the UK, you have a London store, and you have a London ad group. You can set your location of interest at that ad group level as London. And so one, that helps make sure that you're capturing the keywordless intent. So if you, two things, if you have ad groups where you're using a lot of location keywords, then adding that as the location of interest is also helpful, making sure that that keywordless intent is there. And then also you can start maybe streamlining your campaigns and not having all of those granular location level keywords. So that's another, I think, really interesting tool to check out.
Yeah, good tips. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's robustly featured. I think, where I'm personally kind of at with AI Max right now is that it's not working perfectly, but these problems are not unfixable because first off, there's all this reporting so we can diagnose these things. And second off, there's a lot of customization and controls in there. And so I think that's, for a newly launched product, I think we're in pretty good shape here, and that's something that makes me happy compared to some past releases. So I'm happy with not that you need my blessing or anything, but personally, I think it's been a really successful launch, and it's something where I'm looking forward to see what comes up next.
Right.
But having said that, maybe we can switch over to some audience questions for a few minutes at least.
Yeah.
So let me see here. I think I can turn on my pen and highlight stuff too. Ginny, if there's anything that you want to call out that you
Yeah. Well, I know, I saw a lead gen question in there, and I do love our lead gen folks as well. But the question was about not having enough conversion data, I think. A couple of things I'd say is making sure you're using one of the good lead gen specific focused conversion actions, and it sounded like you were, but also look at using a portfolio biz strategy, the shared budget, so that you can again aggregate that conversion data across campaigns. So that may also be an option. And if that's still not enough, then look at what's the next step up at the conversion level that would give you the volume you need without compromising the quality signal that you also need.
Great, thanks. This is I'm just looking at question number 4 here. I don't know if you can say something about this yet, but this question is getting asked nonstop. People want to know if and when we'll see AI placements. So in other words, these AI surfaces like ads inside of AI overviews, ads inside of AI mode. There's just a statement on the support page right now that Google is thinking about it, but is there an outlook here about what kind of reporting or when?
Yeah, I don't have more to add on that other than it's something the teams are thinking about. But at this point, there's no breakout.
All right, we're waiting on pins and needles, just so you know. I'm
Yeah,
sure you do know.
yes, I'm well aware. Yes, yes.
Let's see here. Yeah, there's a question here. Hold on. I don't know if I can make to scroll down to question 9. Yeah, there we go. Regarding the shift to AI Max and this idea of future-proof search, we're used to monitoring granular query data. With AI Max being more broad and intent-based, as you said, how should the monitoring mindset change? Are there specific tips on testing for incrementality compared to attribution? And I just want to say, like, that's one thing. Google uses the word incremental a lot when they're talking about AI Max, incremental conversions, but it's about on top to what you would have been getting otherwise, and it's not in the sense of like marketing incrementality, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, it's yeah, and just to clarify that, so when we, the what you can expect in terms of lift in conversions or conversion value, whatever your goal is, that's looking at the campaign level when you opt into AI Max, like what is that conversion lift that you can expect to see? So this is such a great question, and I think in terms of the monitoring mindset, I think one, this is where um, I think we're going to be able to have better, more insightful reporting to be able to help enable this monitoring mindset. But I would look at things like even the search terms insights reports,
mm,
really looking thematically at the types of things that are getting your ads to show and looking that way. And again, the other thing I mentioned this, but is thinking more whole customer journey. So talking about that attribution piece, um, and I would put a little plug in for data-driven attribution here versus last click, and we actually talked about this on the uh, episode of As Decoded this past couple weeks. So if I would recommend checking that out. But I do think, yes, thinking about this, having a fresh mindset of moving away from looking at very granular keyword reporting and search term reporting to thinking more thematically, more directionally, and again, looking at where your intent signals are focused. So yes, that's part of keywords, but it's also your assets, your landing pages, your bids, whatever your targets are, and all of those other kind of levers that you have at your disposal to steer the traffic to where you want it to go.
oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And I want to give a shout out too to that search term insights report because of that clustering that it does for you already. It would be great if we could get cost data in that report because that feels a bit legacy now. Now we have the search term report where there's cost data and we can figure out our CPCs or ROAS and stuff like that. And it's just a bit missing from the search term insights. Um, but I love that report.
Yeah.
Can we jump down to question 17? I think it's a really interesting one. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately myself. As AI Max increasingly relies on website content to personalize ad copy and URLs, shouldn't landing page and product page design become the primary or a primary optimization lever? In practical terms, what would you change or prioritize on the website to take AI Max to the next level for e-commerce or lead gen? And I would just add, like, I feel this seems quite relevant to all of these AI topics in general. Like, I think it seems like the landing page is a really important information source nowadays.
Yes, I totally agree. I think thinking about what is I've talked about that not on this podcast, but in other contexts of thinking about your brand and your brand positioning as part of your performance strategy. And this question goes to that perfectly. So your landing page, the content that's on your landing page is absolutely a relevancy and intent signal. So this is also why we say don't use text customization and or use your final URL controls for pages that if you have a website that's not updated, then it's not going to do you a lot of good. But so yes, I would absolutely say that a landing page is part of that piece of the puzzle in terms of an optimization and intentional. I think the role of the landing pages also may evolve, but yes, and I think this is also why you see a lot of conversations around having your paid media team and your website content team being really aligned.
Yeah, definitely. I think that has been kind of best practice for years, but it feels like it's starting to become really vital as we get into this new era with AI and all this stuff. To have that kind of holistic alignment between your organic team, your e-commerce team, your paid media team. It's all super important now.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of that is, still obviously optimizing for users and also thinking about the agentic experience as well. Like that's sort of the near future where we are. So
Yeah, I feel like we're like having to optimize for machine readability and human readability. I know the guidance is to really just continue prioritizing humans, which is good. But yeah, it's
right,
quite,
but still being able to, yeah, it's the same fundamentals with SEO, right? You want the bots to be able to understand what is this page about, and can people easily navigate it and access it? So yeah,
definitely. Maybe we have time for one more, Ginny.
yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of these we touched on already, some of these, but um, hold on, just having a look here. And let me know, Ginny, too, if you see anything that jumps out to you.
Let's see. Um, less, I don't, 16, you're seeing less reported AI Max attributed conversions at the
This one
keyword
here, yeah.
level. Yeah, versus at the search term level. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. Sorry, I'm reading it out loud and I'll have to
Yeah,
look at
that's
that
okay.
more closely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's all right. Yeah, in terms of, so hold on, like, would we look at the keyword level with the search term match type segment applied, or at the search term level? Yeah, though just the way when I look at this, um, yeah, first off, I like to look at keyword match type and search term match type and just understand um, where AI Max is active, and it's going to primarily be in your exact match and your phrase match, of course.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know about this discrepancy between the reporting views. But yeah, I mean, like the AI Max filter type applied shouldn't really yield a discrepancy. I'll have to look at that as
Yeah.
well.
If you want to, I don't know who asked this question, but if you want to follow up with me after, that's feel free.
Yeah. But we're just about out of time here. So, Ginny, I want to thank you so much again for taking time out of your very busy day to talk with us.
Yeah.
And we haven't caught up in ages, so that was really nice as well. Just really appreciate it. And
Yeah, that's great. And definitely, I know we talked about taking a look at those questions and following up in um, one way or another. So thanks
yeah,
for all the,
exactly. I'm going to be sharing all the questions over with Ginny, and we'll have a look at those. And I don't know, let's see what we can do. But and yeah, just as a reminder, if you liked conversation like this, then I think you would like Ginny's Ads Decoded podcast even more. It's a really great podcast. It's Ginny talking with the product experts, like really the people who are building this software and everything. So it's super interesting.
great. Thank you. Well, your questions were great, and hopefully we answered a lot of people's questions today. So
Hope
appreciate
so
it.
too. All right. Thanks so much, Ginny. Thanks everyone for joining. We really appreciate it.